Go on my Facebook and then post this link onto the Lakeside channel.
TownHall meeting. I'm Robert. This is Joe. We moderate it. This is the mayor of Lago Vista, Mr. Sullivan. And I saw Shane around here. There he is. Here he comes. And this is Councilman.
You manage it. I'll hold this.
I want to thank you for coming. We're pretty much going to take up the second half of this presentation with the Q&A session. And what I'd like to do to get this started, what I'd like to do to get this started is I'm going to run through a brief presentation, step by step, try to address some misconceptions, some misunderstandings, look at some facts, see where we are today. Questions and comments, please write them down or remember them, and then everybody will have an opportunity to present those. So I'm going to start. I'm not going to complain about the breeze. Okay, if you can see this, what we're going to be talking about today are two distinct parcels of land. One of them we're sitting on. The first one is lot 17R1, and that is the approximate 6.5 acres that surrounds where we are. Lot 17R2 is the 1.2 acres that we are on that contain most of what are referred to as public park facilities. The pool, the pavilion, the showers, the restrooms. Now, by the way, except for the playscape, that's considered private. And the fire pit is considered private, so I don't know how you keep using it. But anyway, but keep those in mind. We're speaking about these two properties right here. In 2020, June 2020, the City Council accepted formally from the developer Lot R1, which is the big parcel. They authorized the mayor at that time, and it wasn't these guys' fault. They authorized the mayor at that time to execute a deed for 17R1, the big lot. What was filed in the county, though, was for 17.2. Okay? So there's a defective deed that was executed. The city authorized acceptance of the big lot, but wrote the deed for the little lot. And that's just an error. It can be amended, but then it leaves R2 in somewhat of a play position. Now we're going to back up 3 years prior to 2017. In 2017, the City Council executed a park maintenance and operation agreement with the HOA and the developer for everything inside the little circle, the trails, and some of the outside areas. And what that agreement entails is that the HOA is responsible, obviously, for the costs to operate, maintain, repair, staff, and insure these facilities, which are owned by the city, except for the playscape and the fire pit. So, I think it's important to understand that we all know that we have a PIT assessment where we pay an annual tax for bond monies that were used to build the infrastructure and build these facilities. For all of us, between the annual assessments and your monthly HOA dues, I mean, it's over $2,000 a year. for each of us. Now, unfortunately, those PIT bonds were issued as tax exempt bonds. So we're hearing that there's a component to it that requires some aspects to be publicly owned. Otherwise, it's not fulfilling the bond covenants. We had some late information yesterday from Hines attorneys that although the park agreement contains a renewal clause, that it auto-renews in alternating 2- and 3-year cycles unless not renewed by either party with 12-month notice. They claim that that's not true, that it just runs to perpetuity, that the pool has a 28-year lifespan, and these agreements, these arrangements need to be intact for the duration until the bonds are paid back. So we don't know if that's true or not. That's one side's interpretation of the facts. What's going on with that? I'll start to keep all this running, and with the exception of lifeguards, which was lifeguards was like $33,000 a year or something like that. If it wasn't open to the public, we wouldn't need that expense because that's a state law. When it's open to the public, this size pool needs 4 lifeguards. So we wouldn't need the lifeguards. So the expenses would go down a little bit. Liability insurance would go down a little bit because it's not insuring everybody. So keeping that in mind, but the fact that the costs to operate all of this stuff would still be a healthy 6 digits a year. Rather than at some point in time when the HOA is actually an HOA with homeowners on it, and you're looking at having to renew the agreement, rather than keep the agreement with the city, how many would be in favor of canceling the agreement and absorbing all those costs through the HOA for exclusive use? Pretty much everybody. That was a dumb question, wasn't it? But it had to be asked. Yeah. Okay. What I'm going to do at this point? Did everybody sign in? Have a chance to sign in? No. Okay. Please do before you leave, so we know get a count and everything. That's good. What I'm going to do at this point. We're fixing to move into that. Okay. So here's how I'd like to do this, because I know a lot of people have opinions and a lot of people have questions. We want to give everybody an opportunity to do that one at a time, and we've got that mic set up over there. Okay? So as soon as I sit down, the bell rings, and go to that mic, and it's open to Q&A. 3, 2, 1.
This is a question directly related to this ask. This is a question directly related to what you asked about who would be in favor of taking it over. Isn't the PIT bonds require some of this, and do the PIT bonds have to be paid off in order for that to happen?
So I think the answer to that is yes. We've got bond counsel Bart Fowler. This item's going to come back up on our agenda probably on June 5th. I'll try and arrange for him to be there so we can ask him that specific question, and then we'll get a better answer for that. The other part I want to respond to, and Robert, I don't know if you've dug into this. I talked to Darlene yesterday from Hines, and I was asking about the HOA. And the information I got from her is that the developer still controls the HOA. Between the developer and Toll Brothers, they will continue to own or control the HOA probably for the next 10 years. And so when it comes down, when you talk about opting out of the agreement and trying to revert the assets back, I hate to say this, it's not y'all that will make that decision. It's Hines and Toll Brothers that will. Are you in agreement with that?
Well, honestly, yes. And they have 2 sides to that story. Eric with Hines told everybody during the last HOA membership meeting that it was approximately a 5-year horizon. That was in December, I think, or November.
When I was on the phone with her, she said 10.
Yeah, and then the other fact is that, and I'm from watching the April 17th workshop, I knew you guys didn't have this knowledge then, but the developer has not made a contribution to the HOA in 3 years.
She told me that.
All homeowner dollars.
And follow-up question, how much are the PID bonds right now?
Millions.
Yeah, so
So
there's
if
been
we would
multiple.
take it off over, developer or the homeowners would have to pay that. So that influences if we want to take it over, right? I mean, that really influences how the hands went up.
Well, but remember, there are multiple tranches of PID bonds over the years since 2012, and they probably total in the range of 75 million, would be my guess. But the amount of money that was put into this area is much less than that. You're talking about 2-3 million that were utilized for this area here.
Just a clarification on the June 5th meeting, would that be open session, not executive session, right? So,
Absolutely.
Okay, so my name's Marty, and I'm one of the elderly people who slips down here every morning. And I can tell you, we don't need the $33,000 spent on lifeguards, because all they do is sit on their phones and take naps. They never look at the pool, ever, ever, ever. I've been here for 7 years now, swimming for 8 years. This is my 8th summer swimming here. They've never looked at the pool, never acknowledged this.
Hey guys, I'm Rhett King. Doesn't make me special. I do real estate, which probably, I know, at least I didn't say I'm a lawyer. So I want to clear the air before I get booed. Guys, this is serious. I've been on HOA boards before. Let me go through some things, though, real estate wise, that's going to affect everybody that owns property here. Do you think somebody that's going to buy your home is going to want to come to an area that might have more crime? I'm just asking this. I don't know the answers. I'm not here, but I'm just giving this. What usually produces more crime is more people. More people that are not regulated by where they live, stay, and go. That's a proven fact that more crime is committed, not in your neighborhood by you, but by somebody else. So these are not just jokes. The price we're facing that we may be taking over, yes, it's a lot of money. How much is 10% reduction on your home worth? I'm just asking. Again, somebody could say, you can't prove that. Well, I don't necessarily know that I can't prove it. I do this every single day. Exclusive amenities are a huge part of real estate. Do not be fooled. Anybody that says that, I want to check their license, and then I want to get them to somebody that does psychiatric examination. Guys, again, you guys have done a great job. It's nobody's here. The builders and the developers are not going to be on our side. They're on cash flow. Let's be clear about that. I don't know whether we can prove deception. I don't know any of these things. But what I would suggest is that we group together, and if we have to put money into it, we hire attorneys. Attorneys win battles. Our public opinion means absolutely nothing except for the folks that live here. Attorneys that go to bat and sue people for millions of dollars and for fraud and misrepresentation, I can assure you that stops toll roads. That stops hides. They don't want that kind of publicity. I'm very concerned about this, just as everybody is. I don't think we're special that we couldn't have visitors. I mean, I really do mean this. The problem is there's plenty of places in Lago Vista for $200 a month you can go to. They already have. I mean, it's available. We're not keeping people from the lake. We bought in here to have a certain area. So for whatever that's worth, my vote is certainly we spend the money to protect our home values. I can speak on home values, but I also think it's important that we get representation. Us going up and being good guys and all this work, you don't have a big time attorney, it's not going to make you need it.
Let me just add something real quick. I wanted to point out that developments with the PID that build public parks as amenities are not uncommon. in Texas. The Woodlands started out that way. There's several other developments when they opened up their pool, their trails, their volleyball courts. They had one, actually, were open to the public. But they knew that when they were driving down the street into the neighborhood, it said private boat ramp, public pool, public pavilion, public volleyball. These don't say that. And I think that's the bigger issue is, was this disclosed to anybody? As a matter of fact, when you look at all the marketing collateral, it appears that whoever drafted it knew that, well, we do not say public use. So we'll just put private on the boat ramp. Then they'll know. So anyway, you had a question?
Yeah, thanks, Robert. I just wanted to add, to the gentleman's comments before. One thing I would caveat is I think the public opinion of yours does matter. I mean, you have the mayor and I here for a reason. We're elected to protect our citizens, and we're here to amplify your voice. And so as far as what's currently going on with you, we're here to help you, but also your message to future developments in our community to prevent what's happened to you to happen to anybody else, and you can help give us the solutions to ensure that that doesn't occur again. And we can amplify your voice to our state representatives who has sent a representative here, their district director, Senator Troxclair. I have a great connection with that office and Senator Campbell's office. We can work with them. I do understand the PIN disclosure side. There was a bill in 2021 that passed to help make that more prominent in the closing documents, but maybe it's not prominent enough. Or if it is, then maybe somebody didn't follow it. And the point being is we're here to amplify your voice, to hear your solutions. And I'd love to hear when y'all speak to see two sides of the solution. One is what is your proposed solution for what is currently happening to you? And then also if we can think to the future, what is your possible solution to how we prevent this from happening to anybody else in our community?
Yeah, we do have a potential firefly, right?
Yeah.
The same type of arrangement where pickleball courts will be open.
Robert, microphone.
That's correct. What he was saying is Firefly is a development that was previously approved. Recently, they were able to approve a MUD. In that MUD agreement, there are public facilities that are be there. So this is a great example of we need to help ensure that people who go on to buy that property are well aware of what is going to be public and what is going to be private. And I think y'all coming here together. And another thing I forgot to mention is just to thank you all for coming together like this. I think this is the best, largest grassroots organization that I have seen since I've been on council. And so when you come together like this, that makes a difference. And thank you all. You should be very proud of yourselves to get here. Everything's been really well organized and really well done.
And just a couple things to add, if I could, for your question. I believe Tessera's had two members that have been on city council. Mark Tibbetts back in the 2016, 2017 timeframe, and then Tim Collins was a little bit later, 2018, 2019. That's helpful. And then if you guys, somebody here wants to run, I highly encourage you to do that because then you've got a voice there on council. Listen, perfect. He's got 3 fingers up, so it sounds like there's folks that are going to run. I highly encourage it. And I'll tell you a little story about Mr. Tibbetts. He was dealing with the PID stuff. It was coming to council and didn't realize that he had a payment. The way he purchased his property was through a trust. He didn't go to the closing. And it wasn't until he was on the council that he learned about the PID and the payment that he had because it wasn't, I think Mr. Soms mentioned that the better disclosure passed after Mr. Tibbetts was on council. And you had to give notice of it when someone came to visit your visitor center. So, before, all you had to do was get a document at closing, and that was the only thing. And he wasn't at closing because the trust closed it. So bottom line is that notifications have gotten better, and people certainly learn things when they're on council and are better able to advocate for their neighborhoods when they're on council. So I highly encourage you all to do that.
Thank you, gentlemen, for being present and allowing us, the residents, to have a voice. And I just want to kind of piggyback on this part question. God did give me the giraffe ability. All right, so I mean, basically, a question did come from this question, right? Is be kind of be careful of what you ask for. I'm not opposed to anything. I'm a resident here. I think in all places I've lived, and I've lived in a lot of nice places, that this should be, ownership to the residents that pay to come into this community. That said, the question that you asked comes with a cost, and it's just something you have to consider. What's the cost of the right? So, paying $92 to $96 a month, and every year it's just going up and up. I think we started at 65, 69 in less than 3 years. We're already almost at $100. What do you think if we get ownership back to this cost? Yeah, we can get attorneys, we can represent us, but not all of us will triple, six figures that live in this community. So the cost back to us is important. You need to consider that. If you look around this community, how many for sale sites do we have? Mr. Mayor, you need to be considered that because people are going to move out of here, and you're going to have a vacancy of the population because they can't afford it or this isn't quite what they were promised. That's something important you need to really adhere to in the community. You get this population out here, and that kind of thing. But that said, we could go from 96, we could go to $300 each ways. I mean, is that what everybody wants? Because you may think that this is a great idea now, but in the back end, you're like, crap, this isn't what I signed up for either. So, I mean, it may not get that high, but it could, right?
That we're already paying those costs. We're the sole party paying all those costs. The city doesn't pay anything.
No, I know that.
So if it reverts to us, we actually realize a cost savings because we don't have to have lifeguards, accessible insurance.
I see. So then I regurgitate that. If we're already paying that, so then nothing's going up. Then. But additional cost because they're not doing anything at all.
Exactly.
There you go. Arrest my case. Arrest my case. Arrest my case. Thank you.
Do we have any about the original agreement and the developer needed to say and why they decided to be this landowner? Was it just the PID funds or did they receive something else?
So there's a requirement when you create a development like this that you have to dedicate a certain amount of land for parkland. And so this was part of their way to do that. And because they paid for the parkland and the facilities utilizing PID funds, that's why it has to have a certain amount of public access.
Okay.
And that dedication is in lieu of a fee. If they didn't dedicate parkland, there was a significant fee attached to that per lot. I don't know what that amount could have been or would be, but that's why they did it in addition to the ordinance.
Because of the bid, we're paying for the construction. It didn't cost the developer that.
That's right. Right. My other question is, you said that this is kind of a common agreement or situation in other developments where the developer receives funds. There's precedent. Is it common that the HOA maintains full liability for those facilities? Because I think that's part of the issue here.
I can speak to that. It's like I said earlier, it's a very similar arrangement. I mean, developers, these are basically just cookie cutter plans and templates that they put in place with each municipality. So yes, it's the same conditions because the bonds are issued as tax exempt bonds. So the buyers of the bonds are expecting that there is a public use tax exempt status attached to that. Okay, and so developers come in and convince city councils. These guys are smarter than that. They didn't convince them. But they convince city councils that, let's do a PID. You go ahead and arrange for the bonds for us. We'll use the bond money. We'll build a park and a pavilion and a pool. And then we'll get the HOA to pay for operating it. And we'll get the homeowners to pay back the bonds every year. So it doesn't help the developer either.
Just keep in mind, PID funds, the vast majority of them go not to the park, it goes to roads, water, wastewater, drainage, that kind of thing. The developer made a decision that they were going to use some of the money. They didn't have to. They made that decision. And so that's the reason why you end up having public access.
Let me make a distinction on that, though, because I heard that during the workshop, too. The difference is, although the PID bond monies were used to build infrastructure, street, water, sewer, drainage, retention ponds, okay? Once those were completed, they get turned over to the city, and the city takes the continuing ongoing costs of those. This is different, okay? The city is not contributing to this, the homeowners are. So that's the big difference between infrastructure and park facilities.
And I think the main point I wanted to make was that the developer made a conscious decision that they were going to build this with PID money. They didn't have to. They chose to. Well, they made it to where they could build amenities, but not on their dime, but on the pit dime, which is basically your dime.
My name's Norm, and just a quick question. Very sad day. It's very similar to this, and Robert, I don't even know who you were 2 days ago, so I'm a little late to the party, and I understand all the pain. I want to say thank you, especially to everybody who's come up and talked about it. But on a side note, now that you're here, I just want to ask, because I don't know myself, because I get different answers when I try to talk to Hines and Eric and Darlene and all these other people in the last few years. You probably noticed when you drove in today, all that construction dust by the water. I don't know if it was smelling when you were here or not, but usually it does. And we've heard for 2 years now that they're working on it, but that rock pile with the construction sign that's it's fallen over has been like that for almost a year. And nobody does anything about it, and nobody answers, because when you talk to them, they say, no, it's the city, or no, it's this, or it's the vendor. There's never a straight answer. Okay? 7 years. Okay, 7 years. And here's my other question. So, back, I think it was the December call. We live in a very, section, we all live in phases, and I actually do work from a home builder, okay, not any out here, but the salespeople want you to sign on the line that's dotted, and they're never going to say anything that would prevent that. Okay, that is deception, but you're never going to prove it. Okay, but we live where there's supposed to be a Greenland or the Greenway, whatever they call it, green belt. Oh, look at this and look at the views you're going to get. Okay, well, the green belt has saw blades in it. It has no grass other than what they did once by throwing it down, and then they try to cut it every couple of weeks. And where we live, there are street signs that are crooked, and nobody can tell me who's responsible for putting them back straight. And Eric, nice guy, but he used to tell me he's out here every week, but I don't think he's seen it in a year and a half. So who's responsible for that stuff? Because if it's the HOA, we talk about how we should have a nice little area in front of us like all the other places because where the models are, it's beautiful trees. We're told the HOA doesn't have any money for that. Well, so my question then comes into, if the HOA doesn't have any money for that, we're paying into that, we want home values to stay and go higher, who's going to help us? Never get an answer. And that's just, no answer is unacceptable. So I just want you to be aware of it and ask them. Straight street lights and gravel that's been sitting there for 2 years, 7 years. I don't think that's a lot to ask. So just asking, and I do appreciate everybody being here.
Thank you. Obviously, we're going to need to have another town hall meeting because there are other issues that need to be presented to representatives from the city council. And in answer to your question, the city is responsible for the streets. So street signs, except for the light poles, they're not responsible for those. Those are considered HOA property. They were put up for ornamental purposes.
Street signs and street lights. Did you need both or one of the other?
He meant both, but I'm saying that the street signs are the city, street lights are the HOA. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
I do. I think with all of this, for me as a homeowner in the neighborhood, there's all these agreements that happened prior to me being here. The PID is something we cannot change. There are rules and things we have to abide by. Obviously, when you purchase a home, the public improvement district is required by Texas property code that that's disclosed to you. So if you all look in your closing statement, it's likely buried in there. We can't change all that. I think for me, the issue is disclosure. Like, if I could pinpoint everything down to one word, it's disclosure. Failure. Yes. So while we cannot change agreements that have already been made, and we have to figure out a solution to those, I think where I go is disclosure. Who knew and did not tell? So if obviously the developer knew, the city, somebody in the city was aware, maybe not everybody in the city, because most of them don't even know. Who knew? And when it comes to a homeowner when you come to buy and you're sitting with a new bill, Did they know? Did those salespeople know? Because if the disclosure isn't there and they did, like, who can we come to and say, you didn't tell us? Because the city website didn't say these are public. Like, why do I have a key fob to a public? Why do I, like, all the signs, everything alludes to amenities. I've never heard of an amenity, and I'm in real estate as well. I've never heard of a builder describing a public park as a neighborhood amenity. Those are two different things. So to me, it's exclusive, and that's on the website. And we all have our closing documents. We could go dig them up. So I think where I want to, like, back to getting representation and getting, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know what that looks like, but it does matter. So when you, like every homeowner here, when you go to sell your house, you are legally liable to disclose this now. Now that you know, you have to disclose it. So you tell me what homeowner wants to buy here to have public park facilities, but yet pay the HOA, pay the PID dues that you cannot get out of. So that impacts the value of your home, the ability to sell your home, because guess what? The Hollows has a lot of nice amenities. So does Trevisa. Like, there are options for buyers out there. So this impacts all of us, and I want to know and this is what we're here for, right? But, like, it's all about disclosure. And if that's at the foot of the developer to say, hey, you did not disclose that to the builders, you did not disclose it to us, or you did tell the builders, oh, the builder didn't tell us, well, builder, you're on the hook. It's like, how do we can't change what's already been done. And if we don't get in control of the HOA in 10 years, then we have no say. Like, there's a degree of what can we do. So I think that's where it lies for me, is the disclosure piece. Because had I known up front, that 100% would have impacted my desire to buy here, to live here, had I known. And I have a feeling a lot of you feel the same way, or it would have impacted your decision on one way or another. So I don't know if I have a question, but more just to say, I want to get to the bottom of the disclosure piece, because that's something we can do something about.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I think that's what I've gathered from talking to a lot of people, was the disclosure potentially wasn't there. I recently toured a house here. The realtor did mention it to me as well. I've seen the marketing documents online that said exclusive amenities. And so I know from the city's authority, there's nothing we can do about the disclosure documents. But what I think that we can work on is, obviously, we need to update the city's website. The city's website needs to reflect where all the public parks are. I think that there are things that we could possibly work on to, and I'm just spitballing. I don't know. I can't tell you if this really happened, but just my ideas I would throw out there are, we can improve the SEO of when you Google Tessera. The city's website should be somewhere up there, and it should have a site that declares that this is public land. I think that when we are working with developers in the future, that maybe we have the ability to have them put on a checklist somewhere that you are going to disclose this in your marketing materials. It's also going to be tied to the city website. I think we have to do our part as a city to continuously remind them that you are coming here to build in our community, and these are going to be future citizens and residents, and you need to do right by them, and we need to hold you accountable for that. And as far as I said before, too, is amplifying your voice. If it's more than just the developer not doing what they're supposed to do, if there's something lacking in the closing documents, then we need to work with our state representative and our state senator to have that stuff updated and maybe make it more prominent. I was a staffer in the Texas legislature for 10 years. I helped a lot on the Hurricane Harvey aftermath. I remember during that time, it was told to us that it wasn't prominent that people were buying in a floodplain. Yes, it was in their closing documents, but no, it wasn't somewhere where people felt like they could really see it. And the legislature passed a bill that even went all the way down to the size of the font of what it has to say that you are buying in a floodplain on its own page in the closing documents. So if that's something that we need to look into, it's your voices that's going to help, and I'm happy to take that to the Capitol.
Let me just add to what Shane was saying. If he's right. I mean, if you look at the 2025 comprehensive park plan for Lago Vista, where it lists all its park assets and even has a map. They don't have these on there. So even if you were doing due diligence and looked into those documents that deep, you're still not gonna find it, okay? But it's a double-edged sword, right? They put it on there, they start telling people, they put up signs so everybody knows this is a public park. Uh-oh. They have 330 acres sitting right next to us. That's public parkland, Sunset Park. You guys drive by there every day. It's being used. Softball guys out there, kids out there, people hiking, everything else. But it doesn't have a pool and it doesn't have waterfront. Okay? We're only about a half mile away from that when they start to realize that, ooh, this is public too. Okay? That's when we start seeing crowds like this that don't even live here.
So just a little more information about the Cedar Breaks facility, 350 acres. It's not 330 acres of parkland. The front 30 acres is the park. The rest of it is effluent disposal. It was specifically purchased for that purpose.
So you got a water.
It's great water. I don't think you're going to want to hang out in that, to be honest.
Don't tell anybody.
Right. So just be careful. Although I will say this morning, before I came up here, I wonder if there's a new trail that goes from Foothill Cove over here to the two other parkland parcels that were near Burnett Knoll here in the Tessera development. Very nice trail, by the way. You should go out and check it out. But a couple other comments. I think I told you the story of Mark Tippett and how he got in. I think he came in and closed sometime in the 2012, 2013, 2014 timeframe. At that time, it was not required that the pit stuff had to be delivered to you until you were at closing. Literally, you were signing that 150,000 pages worth when you're closing. That was when you saw it. I think the law has been changed to where the builders are supposed to show you that information now. Now, how soon in the process, I'm not familiar with that. But the bottom line is that disclosure is supposed to happen when you're working through the process with the builder. I do want to touch a little bit on the city side of things. I know there's this group here, and then there's a group that has a petition, and I think they try to lead folks to believe that the city has been underhanded in some way, shape, or form. I can tell you that any of the agreements that have been signed by the city, they have gone through multiple public meetings in city council sessions for everybody to have an opportunity to come listen if you want and to come speak if you want. There's no document that gets signed by the mayor or the city manager that hasn't been through multiple meetings like that. So just recognize that the disclosure does happen on the city side. Now, you'd have to come to the meetings in order to see that. I recognize that. But the city doesn't have control over the disclosure that happens by the builder and the developer over here. We have the disclosure on the documents that are signed between us and them.
Hi, I just want to keep it really simple and fast. I'm sorry, I live off Prairie Rye, and we bought our house. Just driving into the community and just being really proud to live here. We also wanted to experience lake life living, so it was not disclosed. And after we had already signed on, which we were renting to get our daughter into the amazing school district here, so we were at the lake, in the parks, all the time. And then we come here and they're like, you don't have access to the POA. So that's a main question of mine is how can they come here and we can't go there? And then the second point I want to raise is just things that I addressed with the HOA in terms of maintenance, living along the green belt. There's definitely a fire retention line that's unmaintained. It's been about 8 months in the last 4 years that I've been here. But when asked, can they come back there and mow? It's not in the budget. Nothing is ever in the budget. And then our HOAs just keep increasing. And then there's thousands of homes coming in here. They're obviously paying toward the budget. So those are my questions. What are we getting for it? I know there's a list, and then also with the landscapers coming in, I see them trimming the grass like every other 7 to 10 days, and then we're just getting brush that's getting dry on the outskirts. And so I just want to know, why is it not in the budget? And also, why can we not use our beautiful lake and park public parks and all of this?
So you have to remember the LVPOA is a separate entity from the city. The
Correct.
city does not own that, doesn't have any control of that whatsoever.
Just a little.
I get it, but it's just definitely not city owned, so we have no control over ability to allow y'all to have access or not. My understanding is that they have had difficulty, legal issues around being able to allow other people in. Y'all are not the only ones that don't have access to it. If you go over to Marshall's Harbor, Firefly won't have access to it. There's definitely other parts of the city that don't have access to the POA parks.
We moved here and we were thinking we did, and then that was not disclosed as well.
Yeah, all I can do is apologize for that the builders didn't take it, but again, the city has no control over that. With regard to the mowing, what I can tell you is the city does have control of the streets and the right of way, and the city should be mowing around there. But if you're talking about greenbelt areas, that's owned by the developer, and the city doesn't have access, nor does it have is it required to maintain those areas. So I'm not sure which one you were talking about, whether it was right of way or greenbelt area.
It's all the dry brush right behind the Greenbelt Prairie Ride that we're also told nobody's going to be able to build back there, and that's a whole other can of worms that we're opening. So I do appreciate the opportunity to have the voice, and I think that we need to have some more meetings in place because this is a very big.
Add to that, the POA part of it, so I own and live at the island on Lake Travis, it's the condominiums that are over here, I'm also excluded from the POA, so I feel you on that, and when I've talked to them, and I'm sure they'd be upset with me, giving you this idea, but you have this big group of people, I would keep this big group really close together and add more people to it, and you should contact the POA. There is a path to do it, it's just a very, very hard path that they don't like considering, and they can abolish the current POA and create a new POA. The problem is they have, I think, a 60% threshold on the vote. If they were trying to expand their boundaries, they can't get past the 20% threshold when they take their election. So they have no capability of expanding the boundaries at the time under the current POA. But there's nothing stopping them from exploring the very hard, long path of creating a new property owners association. But that one was created well before Tessera was here. You guys continue to grow. As the city grows and there's more and more people excluded, I think they all need to get together and speak up and ask them, why don't you do the hard part and let's consider how do we expand that POA? I mean, I don't think there is a space limitation. I think they have 11 parks, 7 waterfront parks. There's a lot of space out there. Not all of you are going to go use it at the same exact time. I think there is the ability for it. I mean, that's the problem. People create these agreements and create these associations, and then they pretend that people can't change them, but they can. So I encourage you to continue to band together and let's have those conversations with them. On the overgrown brush, I will say, I would like us to look into that. We are in a very extended, long period of wildfire danger here in our area. I don't want to hear of areas that are overgrown. I know that our ESD do not want to hear that. So if there are those of you who have these areas that you know of, please let us know. I'd love to go talk to Chief Norman. I know Chief Norman is a resident here. And so I'd just be curious to get his professional opinion on it because I don't want to see anybody be near anywhere where there's a danger for additional wildfire issues.
Just one quick comment on the LVPOA. You have to remember that all these lots were platted back in the late 1960s, early 70s. There were like 11,000 of them. There are still 5,000 undeveloped lots. So that's the difficulty. I think it's around 66%. It's 2/3, I believe, that they have to get in order to modify the POA agreement. And they sold these lots to people all over the world. And so you literally cannot get a hold of almost 50% of the lot owners that have lots in there. And that's the difficulty in trying to make a change.
Thank you for everyone being here. As a team, this is great that we can talk about this stuff. Jennifer and I are in real estate, and I'm really short, sorry. So Jennifer Bush, I'm Jesse Hamilton. We have families in the area. We're in real estate. We work with local residents. We decided to purchase up on the next phase 3. In the middle of our build, our PID was disclosed at the beginning of our build. Our PID was disclosed at $15,000. Being in real estate, you go through the documents, you understand what you're signing up for. About a month ago, our PID was reassessed at $72,000. So for our taxes on the line item, would be another $5,200 on top of our taxes.
A year.
A year.
Per year.
if you do not pay that assessment off immediately, there's taxes and penalties, fees included. So at 30 years, we're looking at 130,000. Correct.
We can't hear you.
We're trying to talk, sorry. Okay. So long story short, our PID was raised 500%. There wasn't much disclosures about that issue. When I received the amendment to the assessed value, it was kind of thrown at me like, oh, no big deal, go ahead and sign it. Now, being in real estate, I saw that and I was like, this is a big, huge thing. For new buyers, for people that are coming in, resale values, people are not going to want to come in and pay a $72,000 PID for what we have public amenities. It's been a battle talking to them. There's not really disclosure on what we can do, what our options are. We spoke to many people. We spoke to somebody that actually said that 36,000 was the highest that he had seen for a PID, and that was in the Metro Tex up towards Dallas. I've been in real estate for 8 years. I know PIDs are serious, and looking at this as a new home buyer, if I was representing somebody, I would say absolutely do not do this. It's too much money, and on top of the values of your taxes, I was looking at over $22,000 a year in taxes. So we are in a dilemma. I'm building on Golden Daisy right now, and it's super frustrating. We love the community, we love the people, everyone here is great, but the disclosure thing, especially what I've heard from every realtor that's been up here, we're not getting the information we need.
And Jennifer, I remember your particular, didn't someone at least verbally tell you a different PID amount that was much lower than what you found out at the 70,000?
This is the disclosure that Jesse was speaking of. My family personally purchased the property July 4th weekend of last year, and we're building it on Tuscany Home Buyer. And we were given a PID amount of $15,000, and that was disclosed. The lot type was incorrect. Come to find out, talking to Sarah at P3 admin, P3 Works, she was baffled of how we were given that disclosure to begin with. That disclosure should have never gone out. It was the wrong lot type. It was deceptive. I do believe that there's a deceptive trade practice going on here.
It's the builder that told
We
you.
also spoke to the developer. Okay, but yes, the builder gave the disclosure, yes, sir. We also spoke to the developer personally on a three-way call. Jesse and I did. We also have spoken to a professor at A&M of how PIDs work. I've talked to state officials in regards to this. We've gone all the way up, and it's not okay. We think of it as a client. As you go in there, and this is very personal to us, and just to protect clients altogether. You go in and you buy a lot and you build your dreams. You're building a home. It is a lot of emotional. Kids are dancing on the lot. You're taking photos. You go in and you write your scriptures on the framing. We did all of it. And they come in right before closing and say, we're going to give you now a PID assessment of $74,000, and it was passed back in August. So how did we not know about it since August? And thinking of this as a client, if this was my client, I would bury my head under my bed for the next 5 years and not talk to anyone. I mean, it's terrible. Because if you think about if you are now to comp that home at an extra $74,000, no one is going to purchase that home. There's no resale. There's no investment for us. We're taking half of our equity from another home, placing it into this home. It's not okay. It's not okay for the rest of the community either. And everything else, like we're talking about with the POA versus the HOA. It's not okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry you're going through it, and I agree, it's not okay. And again, I'm just speaking as an individual city councilman, not for the city. But I do understand that the change petition out there is a little separate from some people who are here, but part of that petition is to go to the Attorney General's office to talk about deceptive practices, and you have my full support to push for State Representative Troxler and Senator Kanata Campbell to help me
Thank
send
you
that
so
letter.
much.
And I would be happy to be a part of that process with all of you, and please stay here after and contact me.
All right, anybody else?
And just one quick comment. So we have another development that went through the approval process recently, Turnback, and they were originally entitled to over 700 units on their property of about 300 acres. And ultimately, we went through a negotiation with them, with the neighbors, and it came down to about 340, I want to say 350. And we were doing the calculations, and it turned out we're estimating they were going to have bid payments of over $100,000 per lot. And so I'm really questioning, how viable that development is, to be honest with you, because who's going to pay that? Now, on a separate conversation, I was talking to a developer. He was looking at potentially buying 500 acres of land and doing the development. And he talked about the fact that these developments are not happening without a bid or without a MUD. They just aren't happening because the money's not there right now. So we're kind of stuck in not a virtuous circle right now, to be honest with you. Right. So one of the things we are doing is there's all kinds of developments that have been entitled over the years, the last 20 years. A bunch of them happened back in the 2007 timeframe, right before the great financial collapse. And so they've been sitting there ever since then. And we have been looking at them to see if we want to down zone them. The problem with that is when you do down zone them, the developer's going to sue you and say you're taking, some of the value of my property, for example. So we are looking at those things, but we're kind of somewhat limited as far as what we can do with regard to that. And we're working with the developers as best we can to allow them to get the use of their property, because the state of Texas is a very strong property rights state, but still have it be reasonable for the people that ultimately are going to live there. And I think the biggest thing is what you guys are harping on, which is disclosure. So that people walk in with eyes wide open, that they aren't hornswoggled and find out at the very last minute that it's going to be 72,000 instead of 15,000.
Hi. Regarding disclosure, I only bought 11 months ago and it wasn't disclosed to me even as soon as that. But yet I wonder if it is being disclosed now, why all of these homes are sitting for sale that are beautiful, priced right, and they're just not selling. So that was just a comment. My immediate question for the summer is, the pool is only open to the general public from 8 to 11:30, Sunday to Thursday. Is that, so if you identify our pool as public, are those hours listed on your, wherever you document it for the public, that it closes at 11:30 to the public?
So that is absolutely listed in the agreement that we signed with the developer, and it's when you buy your pool pass, it's documented to you that you only have it until 11:30 Sunday through Thursday.
Okay, so when you buy your pool pass, you're told it's only available to you Sunday to Thursday till 11:30 in the morning.
That's my understanding, and my understanding also is that no matter whether you are a City of Lago resident or a Tessera resident, they close down the pool at 11:30. Everybody's out, and then you have to come back in with your key fob as a resident after that, correct? And how does it work?
That's what the rules say. It's supposed to close down at 11:30. So if you're someone who packed up your whole family, you're not a Tessera resident, you got a fob. You don't know it closes at 11:30. You get here at 11. You take up 10 chairs, throw all your shit around. Then you're going to have to walk out 30 minutes later. People are all holding the gate for the person behind them to come back in. So now all those non-Tessera residents are still in the pool. I would expect it's the City of Lago to enforce that rule. That is the agreement you have with us. We shouldn't have to pay lifeguards to enforce that rule. The City of Lago needs to ensure that those people are out at 11:30 and they are not here on Saturday. Because again, we all tailgate. So.
I agree. Well, let's look into it. We add it onto that agenda item.
It'll probably get separate. Yeah, because it's kind of a separate topic.
would you all be willing to open up a path for the residents who are considered consumers, right? You would say, hey, we bought property, and we're probably consumers of what's being marketed here. Not accusing anyone. There are laws that protect against consumer protection. So I think someone said it was the Texas Deceptive Trade Practice Act. If you find evidence of consumers being decepted from a marketing perspective from what they're being sold, would you be willing to go to the Attorney General, who I believe has jurisdiction to investigate?
Yes.
Guys, I'm not here to make a speech again. Okay, maybe I am. Let's be clear what's going on. I want to make sure I'm making a statement as it goes. The city is not our enemy. The city is not our enemy. I didn't want that to sound bad. We have got to stand up to the developers of the building. Yep. The city is, not really mean this. We can't fault the city for doing their job. So let's not, I'm not for that at all, and I apologize if it sounded that way, but I'm 100% knowing our only opportunity, you've already heard you can't get a hold of the HOA, you don't have any money, so please don't believe that they're going to do anything to help us keep this. We're going to have to hire somebody that charges them more money than they're willing to not, quote, lose, and I know that's ugly to say, that's a fact. When you go up against these powerhouses, the only thing they want is money or not to lose money. None.
Robert, I do have a quick question about the HOA.
Let me add his comments first. These are our allies. They're not the enemy. Okay. I know that I had an hour-long conversation last night with Councilman Roberts. And I don't know if everybody got to see his comments on the petition. He is behind us 100%. Okay? And I'll use this as my, are there more questions? Okay, I'll get to you. So I wanted to add to that it is the city that is going to help get us out of this mess. Okay? We need them to help get us out of this mess. What we need them to do is help us figure out a very simple solution. How do we transfer ownership of these facilities from the city to the HOA? That's it. We're already paying to run them. How do we transfer ownership? If it's a partnership, if it's pseudo, whatever considerations we need to keep the tax exempt bond covenants in place, we need to do it. But they're going to help us figure it out, hopefully.
One simple thing is I have, when Nicole was here as one of the HOAs and now I sent pictures and whatnot of literally tinder boxes in between in our supposed green belts. And it's very concerning after seeing what happened in California. This could be for benefit, and I don't think the homeowners are responsible for having to go into the green belt. And I have sent so many pictures and so many notes and never hear a response. And I know that's not about you as a city, but it is a concern when we've got these piles of timber as well up the hill that was supposed to be, I guess, mulched and laid out after 30 days, and it's been almost 2 years.
Wildfires don't respect the HOA boundaries.
Yeah, if you would, send pictures to Shane and I. Both of our email addresses are on the website. We will definitely do stuff. We'll talk with Donnie about it at the ESD and see what we can do.
I actually thought I was going to send them to the fire department at some point because these are our homes and we have children and we want to be a story.
I certainly want to encourage you to talk with the fire department, but use us as your allies in talking to them.
And the last thing we heard is, no, it's a bird sanctuary, so we cannot do anything. But seriously, you cannot do anything on the land. It's not of dirt there. There's a fire there, there's many.
Okay, we're gonna do the questions over here, comments over here.
So,
So what the question I have, and I don't know the answer to this, what is the statute of limitations? What is the statute of limitations on a claim for fraud in Texas? How do you make it? Looks like it's 4 years. It's usually triggered by the date you never should have known of the deception, which for some people might be today. The other thing I wanted to point out, it's my understanding as far as the Attorney General and claims for unfair and deceptive trade practices, which anyone who bought here would consider consumer, this would be consumer property. You can go online, you can file a claim with the Attorney General's office individually. My understanding is that the form would set up the international legal. So,
Yeah, if anyone didn't hear that, I did see that on the change.org petition, that every individual consumer can go to the Attorney General's website and submit the claim of the fraud. And I encourage you to do that. The higher those numbers are, the more likely the Attorney General is to look into it.
So I have a question. I know there's a rule that for this pool that no one should be diving from the top pool to the lower pool, right? It happens all the time with a lot of teenagers from last year. I shot a couple videos. I was hiding behind that wall, and they're waiting for no one there, and they dive into it. Because that's a disaster waiting to happen. Because if something happens here, this pool can get shut down, right? No one gets to enjoy it. So I wonder how we're going to enforce that. Right? No one's here. And it's going to be a public pool. Anyone can come here and they can start diving, right? And it only matters one that someone break their head, and then we got a lot of problems here. How are we going to enforce that?
Hate to say this because I think it's more cost for the homeowners association, but I'm assuming this is happening after the 11:30 timeframe. There's no all the time. All I can say is the lifeguards that are there until 11:30 should stop that from happening. If they're not, that's a problem, and we'll take that up with them. But it's happening. If it's happening after 11:30 and there's no lifeguards here, that's something that the HOA is going to have to investigate whether or not they want to have lifeguards later on or just enforcers. And I could, before you ask your question, I wanted to ask a quick question about the HOA. I understand that the developer currently controls it, but is there any representation from the residents on the HOA board?
Until 75% occupied, and currently we're at 32%. In 10 years or more, it took 10 years to get to 32%. How much longer do you think it's going to take to get to 75%, especially in this market? Right now.
And Darlene was telling me it's 90% before it turns over, not 75.
75%. I could be wrong. I'm only here since June, so I'm not even here a year, but we bought our land through Hines, and we also didn't get any disclosures that said that it's public property or anything like that. We did get a PIT disclosure, never thought that, we understood that, but we didn't know we'd be on the hook for the maintenance forever.
Okay, thank you.
So just a real simple question. Two of them. Number one, why don't we, everybody together, have this with the developer and Hines and the HOA people and have a conversation so they can hear this? Because as you said, if there's all of us, they're going to have to pay attention. Why can't they be here and talk this out?
They won't show up.
No, he says they won't show up. Okay, let's say they don't show up. My understanding of good government is you hold the permits and all the other things to have them continue to build, right? You, the developer, does not, we're the dog. They're not, I'm sorry, we should be the dog instead of the tail. They can't build on a lot without a permit, which comes from the city, correct? So until they wake up and do what we need to do, you don't issue one. How's that? And when they want to fight it, that you're lowering their values to the property that they owned 10 years ago, well, guess what? Do what you're supposed to do and we'll sign your permit. Because far be it from me to say any builder or salesperson, we can cut corners to tell you what you want to hear. By the way, thank you. I think I read that on the bumper sticker.
Well, that helps get to what I really want to make sure before we end this meeting that we come away with deliverables of what we're going to do. And I think one of the biggest takeaways you heard the mayor say before, we are going to discuss this item on June 5th in public. And so my question, I guess, for the mayor is, can we or will we invite Heinz to come and attend that public portion of the meeting?
So, absolutely, but I think more importantly, we're going to invite Lord Fowler, our bond counsel, to get some legal answers. And also we'll have our regular city attorney there. Because quite frankly, I don't know if it's legal for us to, for example, withhold permits if the developer doesn't want to meet with you guys, for example. I just have no clue whether that's legal or not. And so we'll ask our city attorney if that's possible.
Hi, I'm home here in 2023. I have 2 small children, age of 6 and 2. We fell in love with the community, how just welcoming it was. We saw the park, we saw the pool, we saw the views. We were sold on it. I think it was last year when our playground rope was demolished and we couldn't play on it safely. And I know I saw a post in our community Facebook that made it aware, took the pictures, brought it to the HOA, and they were like, well, if it's ruined, it's ruined. There's nothing that we can do. So I pay HOA fees. I would like to use what I pay to fix that. Because as a parent that I pay monthly, I would like it to be fixed. I don't know why it's so hard to fix something for the children, right? Kids come first. Safety. So if we can't even use it, so then why do we even have a playground if we're not going to continue keeping it up? Protect it, especially for the smaller children. It's uphill. A border should have been thought of because kids can run off. Yeah, it's the parents' responsibility to be aware, but in with a split seconds, we know kids can run really fast. They have multiple children. Safety, once again. So I would like some answers for that. Like, I want it fixed because it's been a little too long for it to be. Nah, that rope is not. It's not acceptable. I'm sorry. We pay too much money here.
And just remember, the playscape and the fire pit are private entities, private amenities, but I can look into whether or not something like that violates code violation, and if we can cite them until they fix it.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
I've got 2 questions, both involving the city. I heard you say earlier that the city maintains the rules, but in our HOA fees, I know we are paying for a contractor to maintain it well. How does the city, are we paying a contractor also, but the city's supposed to maintain our streets?
Well, remember, you've got contractors that are, they're mowing, but if it's not the right of way, if it's your development property, then you're paying for maintaining your own property. But so we'd have to look and see, is it right of way or is it HOA property?
Coming in Main to Tessera Drive, right away is what, 6-8 feet out?
It depends. It's different on every road.
Second question, that's something I'd like to check into. We are maintaining a contract with our HOA dues. But second is, I've lived here a decade, and I've heard the rumor, and I just talked to a couple that bought up at the top of the hill on the east side. Is there some type of deal with the city to put in a school up there? Because they've heard nothing about it. I've heard for 10 years that there was going to be an elementary school up at the top of the hill. So is this being disclosed? Do you know anything about it?
So remember, the ISD is a completely separate organization. We don't have anything to do with that. I have heard the same thing, that the developer was going to donate land for an elementary school. They were working with the ISD on that, but you'd have to ask the ISD about that.
Okay, good answer. Thank you.
Hey, I'll be nice. My name is Mindy and I work for Weston Homes, and I speak for myself, not for Weston Homes. But I want to tell you, we've been out here since March. We do disclose. That's one of the initial conversations that I had. So I can't speak for the past, but I took this job. I've been the only salesperson out here, and we're disclosing the pit. I also want you to remember that you guys want to protect your property values. So I had a buyer come out here yesterday to the pool, and one of your residents told them why they shouldn't buy here. Do you guys want to protect your values? You guys shouldn't be scaring buyers away. So as long as things are properly disclosed, and say to them, be sure you ask about the PID, all right? But I wouldn't scare people away. People aren't coming here, not coming to Tessera because of the PID. People aren't coming to Lago. You guys talk to realtors. I've been a realtor for 8 years as well. It's a Lago demand. Lago needs to get more development out here so we have more people. But also why you want to come out here is because it's slower and not as populous as Austin. Yeah, we have other neighborhoods like the Hollows and Treviso. They're $200,000+ more than we are. Prices are coming down because demand is down. It's not because of the PID. New developments have MUDs, have PIDs. Most of them have MUDs. Our base tax rate is 2.08. If you add in the PID, we are every bit as marketable as the rest of Georgetown, which we're competing a lot with buyers, which have their tax rates at 2.5 and 2.8. You go over to the other side of the lake, and the tax rate is 2.8 to over 3%. It's still inaffordable. It sucks. I hear none of you guys got disclosed. That sucks. I feel really bad for all of you. It's being disclosed now by Weston Homes. So please don't. What I'm telling you is.
So what are you telling me? What do you mean by disclosure?
Well, first of all, the public use is 8 weeks for 3 hours a day. June 15th to August 15th. Yeah. I'm telling you that the people came yesterday, that we have amenities. That's all I say. Yeah. So, but guess what? I'm here to learn what matters, right? And I'm the only builder here. So
why are you chastising them?
I'm not chastising anyone. I'm telling. No, sir.
You said that they scared prospective home buyers away by telling them.
Because they told them that they're getting ready to have a lawsuit. I'm telling you guys, be careful of what you say and what you do, because you're going to continue to hurt your values. But if it's that it's public for part of the time, like nobody's saying that it's custom, like whatever amenities. We're just saying that that we have amenities.
Everything outside the pool fence.
Yeah.
Is open for public use 365 days a year.
One thing that I will be sure is to get the link to the disclosures, but I will also of where the PID stuff is, because I would say to you guys, when you buy a house, do you read every title document? Do you read? So you have to have personal accountability as well. So I would say mindset and values. It's the truth. It is the truth. So. I don't need a bodyguard. It's fine. But I'm here to help your guys' neighborhood be better, and I'll make sure that I disclose. And I just wanted to let you guys know that we're not all bad. And I do take pictures of the grass and send it to the HOA. And we do need to advocate for the HOA to be more present. So, yeah.
Would you mind giving your home buyers these 3 sheets?
What did you hear?
Exhibit A, trail rules for the public. Exhibit B, pool rules for the public. And Exhibit C, pavilion resolution.
It's good. So my name is Dave, and thanks for coming. It means a lot for us to get together to ask questions for you. My question is, does the city have a process for analysis and acceptance for fines to increase the PID? And were you aware that the PID is increasing? And the third question for anybody else here, is anybody else paying over $70,000 a year for PID? So, right, nobody. Is anybody else here from Phase 3 new section? No. So is the city aware that they are three people? So is the city aware that Hines has increased the bid 72,000? And can we have some transparency? Thanks for being here. We understand that you're on our side. Some transparency of what those funds are going for, so we can feel better that they're increasing the infrastructure that we all need.
His schedule, financial sheet.
So on an annual basis, the developer in P3 Works comes before the council and presents the SAP service plan. And it has all of the assessments for the different types of lots in there that's reviewed on an annual basis and approved. The SAP is approved on an annual basis, but it happens one time. And any modifications they make throughout the year, we don't have meetings where that is disclosed and discovered in an open session throughout the year.
Okay, so I think the answer I'm hearing is you don't have any visibility to what the pit fees are for jail development. Is that correct?
No, when that plan is approved, each lot type has an assessment, and we do review those, and that's part of the SAP approval process. But if they make modifications throughout the year, let's say they add a new phase, for example, and that happens shortly after we've approved the SAP, we won't see that until the next time the SAP comes up for approval.
Okay, so the city understood and passed that they were raising the PID rates 500% for people in here for the next phase, yes?
So the last time the SAP came before us, I don't remember any lot types having a 70,000 plus PID assessment. I mean, generally they were anywhere from the 50,000 to in the low 30s, is what I remember. So.
Okay.
I'll add that I became aware because Jennifer Bush was coming over here and she sent her specific case, and I did see it in the last SAP. I did see it in there.
I just want to give one more little insight to that. You realize that those lots are the smallest lots in the entire community as well, with the highest PID assessment. That is an issue. And I could understand the 15,000, we were ready to pay that, but 74,000 on top of closing costs, if you don't pay that off right away, we already spoke about that, for the smallest, tiniest lot in this whole community, you're going to raise it to that. That's on, that's my other argument in this case. I just had to, I don't know.
And I don't mean to be cruel, but as long as they disclose it, then, but they're not disclosed, that's the real problem. If everyone knew upfront when they walked in, I'm being assessed 74,000 for a teeny tiny lot, they'll all walk away and no one will buy them, and the developer's going to have to change.
Right.
But when they don't disclose, that's deceptive. That's wrong.
I agree.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I think we saw a really good example of non-disclosure. Okay, let me wrap this up. It's wrap-up time, but I want to say a few things before we turn it back over to them and let them have their say too. And then we've got an introduction at the end. But as far as the agreement goes and the whole topic that we're focused on here, public park land and public park facilities that the HOA pays for, I don't think it takes a rocket science to figure out that the agreement is problematic. Everything from who gets into the pool when to where the invisible line is around the playscape, and knowing where to stop on the trail because it turns from public to private. So it's a defective agreement. So what I would like to do on behalf of everybody here is leave here today with at least one focused avenue of a solution. And that would be to see if we can get the city to help us look at this agreement, see if there's any way we can take advantage of the termination clause. Well, it's not a termination clause, it's their termination clause. They can terminate it at any time if the HOA doesn't live up to their end. Well, the developer's going to live up to theirs. They made it clear they don't want to see it canceled. So we need to look at that and see if there's any out whatsoever. If there were procedural rules that were violated in those city council sessions, if they weren't authorized at the time to execute the agreement, whatever. But look at a way to where ultimately we don't have to wait 10, 12, 15 years to get out of this mess. And maybe there is some way to simply have the city transfer ownership to the HOA. I believe the HOA is a nonprofit. Aren't they nonprofit entities for 501c3s? Well, I'm talking about the structure of an HOA. I believe it's a 501c, so it's nonprofit. So that may fulfill a C4. Yeah, that's not.
Yeah, we already had a problem over at Turnback with trying to convey some property with them. We had to come up with an alternate way to do it. So it is a problem that they're C4 instead of C3.
So that's off the table. But we've got, I think, again, just like show of hands, would everybody agree that we want to leave here thinking that we can work towards a solution with the city to transfer ownership of the HOA to the HOA, and these become what they were intended to be, private amenities? Okay, I think it's unanimous. All right, thank you. All right, so I'm going to...
One last quick point. We wouldn't be able to just transfer it to you free of charge and have to be paid for it. It's required legal.
I don't think that'd be a problem. So, all right, so I'm going to turn it over to them and let each of them close.
I don't have anything more substantial to say other than I will be happy to hang around here. Anybody who wants to come up and ask questions, I'll hang around as long as there are questions. And please come visit and be happy to answer them as best I can.
Yeah, just thank you all for coming here and doing this. Thank you for organizing. This is how things get done. I'll stick around as well. I have my cards here, my cell phone's on it. You can reach me about these issues, but any other issues in the city. And I think we talked about this will be on the June 5th City Council meeting, so you can come and speak at that as well and come listen to it. But also I agreed with y'all that I will go help you with the Attorney General's portion of this. So come talk to me about that, and I will continue to work on that with you with Representative Troxler and Senator Hamer's office. Thank you.
All right, I want to thank you for attending. Really, I mean, this is great of y'all. All right, so right now I'd like to make an announcement. Don't leave yet. Don't leave yet. First, I want to introduce to you. We've actually got 3 to introduce to you, but the first one I'd like to introduce to you for the Tessera candidate for City Council is Jess Hall.
Hello, and thank you. I'm a Tessera resident. I'm here with you. My goal, if elected to the City Council, will be for responsible growth, enhances the quality of our lives, and that protects our beautiful landscape. I've been in leadership positions. My experience includes over 30 years as a CEO and senior manager. I have a master's degree in city management planning. I want to bring my skills to work, representing you and making sure that you get what is should be transparent, clear, and with decisions made in full consideration of fairness to you and me, the homeowners. And so moving forward, as new agreements are made, as those are discussed, we need to have a voice on the City Council to be sure that there is that transparency, that clarity, and that fairness to all of our residents, current and future. Growth is essential, so I don't want you to misinterpret what I'm saying. It is essential. It brings and supports our business that we have here. It brings new retail, new restaurant options. It helps support our city infrastructure. So that's important. But it needs to be done carefully, with consideration for not having congested roads, streets, for maintaining what we've got, for the city infrastructure to support that, and to also preserve the natural beauty that is one of the reasons that we bought here. It's special, makes this city special. So I asked for your vote on November 5th, and I just ask that we build a future together for a better Lago Vista. I've got some cards over there, some information about my candidacy. I invite you to visit with my wife, Joyce, She's got the cards, and I don't have enough for everybody here. We have great turnout, but very happy to hear Mr. Tom and our mayor who are in sync with, I know there are other council members who support exactly what I'm talking about: transparency, clarity, and fairness as we deal with our citizens. Thank you.
All right. Impressive. Our next candidate for Lago Vista City Council is Christina Miller.
Hi, thank you. Good morning, everybody. I'm Christina Miller. I'm a public servant working for the state of Texas at the DOT. I'm the lead architect, an AI architect leading their AI program for the state. I also am a veteran of 15 years. Thank you. I'm going to bring leadership, discipline, governance, integrity, and transparency. And I would like to partner with the city of Lago Vista and bring this community on the map and represent you. I'd be honored to have your vote.
Thank you. Thank you. We actually have a third candidate for Lago Vista City Council. She wasn't able to be here today because unfortunately, I didn't get around to tell her about this until she'd already been out of town. But Amanda Wilson, if you're in the Facebook group, either one of them, you'd see her post there. But she's also a candidate. She's a real estate investor. She does a lot of things. She got her hands in a lot of different things. So, and she's very interested in supporting our community. And so you'll be seeing more about her too. I'd like to wrap this up and thank everybody for coming. We were thinking maybe 25, 30 people would show up. I think we easily doubled that. For more information, if you can't write this down, remember it in your head, TesseraTaxpayers.org. Everything here, all the paperwork, everything else is at TesseraTaxpayers.org. And you can download it from there, and we'll keep that updated as to what's going on. We'll have candidate pages and all kinds of good things there. All right. Thank you.